Hello, everybody, and welcome back at Adobe Live. I'm your host, Claudia, and I'm super excited to be here today along Javier Mercedes. Hi, Javier. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you and everybody else watching as well.
Absolutely. Welcome here to Adobe Live. We are thrilled to have you here, and I personally look forward, and I'm sure everybody else that is here with us, we are looking forward to see all the amazing pro tips that you're going to share during this Adobe Live. If you're just tuning in, we have Javier here to talk us through. Javier is a content creator, and he's going to talk us through how to select the best shots and how to use all the wonderful features in Premiere Pro. So stay tuned because we're going to learn a lot about how to create video content today. And of course, before we get started, I want to remind you that if you missed any of these wonderful stream, you can always watch the replay on Behance. In fact, if you haven't seen day one of character creation in fresco with the lovely Melissa Showers, you can catch up and watch day one. And of course, we have day two coming up tomorrow. And of course, there is also the amazing challenges. They are live on Behance. You can catch up the replay. We have Julia with the illustrative challenges encore at 11:30 Pacific time. So make sure to go and check them out every single day live on Behance. But now, before we get started, Javier, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, and then we're going to jump in chat, say hello before we get started.
Yes, like Claudia was saying, my name's Javier Mercedes. I'm a YouTuber. I do video editing tutorials on the internet, mainly Premiere Pro. If you want to show my screen, Paco, I could show a couple slides here. So instead of using any other program, I thought I'd use Premiere Pro to showcase these. Let's take it back to the beginning. When I had some hair, and this is me back in the day, back in grade school. This is where I kind of got my creative flow going. I was in a garage band. We were called Groove Shelter, and I really loved music, but more than that, I loved editing audio. And that kind of gets into video here in a second. I played bass in our band, and I was the kid that basically had all of the other kids in high school come over to my house to like try and record something and make an album. Fast forward to college, and turns out you can get degrees in recording engineering. I ended up going to Ball State, learning how to do audio engineering. And then I ended up getting a full-time job for 4 years in Atlanta at a studio called Doppler Studios. Here, I got to do a lot of amazing stuff. Primarily, it has to do with ADR, or I believe it's called audio dialogue replacement. Regardless, that's the process at which somebody comes to a recording studio and they'll look at the TV screen and re-say their lines after something's been edited. So let's say during a movie, while you're recording, an ambulance is going on in the background, and obviously you can't really use that audio. So an actor or actress will come to a studio like this one and record their ADR. This kind of gets me into the video realm. During my time there, I did stuff like that. ADR, also did radio commercials, video commercials, anything that has to do with audio. I probably touched it in some way, shape, or form. Some awesome people that I got to work with here. I'm with the Property Brothers. I spent a whole summer with them. If you heard any of their voiceover during their shows that they recorded in Atlanta, I was probably the guy behind the scenes just hitting the record button. I got to work with Morgan Freeman, Katy Perry, a past US president, so on and so forth. It was an awesome experience. But in terms of creatively, I felt like all I was doing was coming into a studio, hitting a record button, making sure nothing's breaking, and then going home. So I was like, how can I be more creative? And I always like a little bit of video. So I was like, man, let's try and figure out how cameras work. After 4 years at the recording studio, I ended up moving to Austin, Texas, and I was able to get a job as one of the videographers at a website called The Chive. And as you can tell, the more cameras you have, the better quality is the video, right? Essentially, like, I got to get better at film editing and shooting material and things of that nature, to the point where at the Chive, we ended up having about a team of I want to say about 20 people in their production department, and I was the senior video editor there. And while I was there, I was the person that would come and everybody would shadow me for about a week if they were getting onboarded onto the company. And I would show them like how we would shoot videos. Also, I would show them the video editing process of how we wanted videos to look, and basically the organization, how you archive materials. And while I was doing that, let me just show you some time lapses here. This would be like a typical day. While I was doing that, the people that I was teaching told me, hey, like, I really liked how you taught me X, Y, and Z about Premiere Pro. All of these guys were really good editors to begin with, but I just was trying to get everybody on the same page so we could work as a team. And after working there for 4 years and having many people come up to me and say, I really like the way that you teach me how to edit, I was like, man, there must be a way that you could scale this. And lo and behold, doing a YouTube channel with tutorials is something that is a good idea. So I started a YouTube channel, and here is back in 2017. I was looking for 100 subscribers. I ended up getting 297 that month. I ended up leaving my job at the Chive, and I went into freelance video editing while the YouTube stuff was picking up as well. Right here is a gig that I was doing for CBS. This one ended up getting a sports Emmy for the entire production. So I was just part of a team, but I kind of like to say it because it's like, man, I kind of got like a sports Emmy for this.
Amazing.
For this production where for those that are not in the United States, this was for the NCAA tournament. It was their broadcast quality of the NCAA tournament. And for this, for anybody that is in the US and they know Ja Morant, our team was following Murray State and Ja Morant. So I got to spend like some time with him, create a whole bunch of pieces throughout a week. And this gets more into how I like to do my YouTube channel. Throughout my whole editing experience, where I try and approach video editing and tutorials online, I approach it from this standpoint of, if you are underneath a timeline, what is the best way to approach getting the idea or project done in a timely manner? Because if you're on a gig like this, and with some of the videos that I had to do with this one, you got your material and you had to turn around edits that were ready to broadcast on national television within like an hour.
Wow.
So you have to know your stuff, but sometimes
you gotta think fast.
Sometimes things don't like gel the way that you want them to, and you just have to think creatively to overcome those challenges. So when I approach my video editing tutorials, I approach it from everything that I've learned in the past. And there may be a more efficient way of doing certain things, but when you are in a time crunch and a producer is asking you to do X, Y, Z, and you need to get that project out the door, I try and look at it as like, these are the essential things that you need to know about X, Y, and Z when it comes to whatever I'm trying to teach. So hopefully that has spiked your interest for what is to come for this video, or I'm in YouTube mode for this live stream. We are going to be going over the last upload that I just did. It's a coffee B-roll piece. And just to cap this off, right now I do have a bigger YouTube channel, and it mostly specializes in YouTube or Premiere Pro tutorials. So I'm going to play you the finished product of something that we will be creating. Whether what we create comes out almost like this, we'll see. But I just want to take you through the process of this. And I thought it was a short enough edit that we could get through something like this in 2 live streams. So here we go.
Ooh, what do we have here? Are these the essentials for a filmmaking tutorializing YouTuber? That's right, it's cinematic coffee B-roll. Slow motion perfection. Is this how my voice sounds in real life? You bet it is. The song's a vibe. The coffee's a vibe. That slow motion 120 FPS on the audio pass filter? Respect the trip, Karen! You know where that like button is. Battery sold separately must include YouTuber cliche surprise thumbnail face and what camera I used in parentheses in the title.
Woo, amazing. Absolutely love that. So exciting. Before we get started, Javier, I'm just going to say just quick hello to the chat before we actually jump, although we already are in Premiere, which is fantastic. I love that you tied everything together and also showed your little introduction as well on Premiere. So before we get started, shout out to everybody that is joining us on Behance. I can see RB, Aigu, and of course we have our with Val. By the way, Javier, with Val, usually when me and Val are on a combo here on Behance, we can do polls. So if by any chance you want to give the audience a choice of whatever, two variables, maybe a color, maybe a font, I don't know, but we do have the opportunity. We don't have to, but we do have the opportunity to have the chat participating. And in fact, for those of you that are watching on YouTube, this is the time to jump on behance.net/live, because that's the place where I'll be able to read the chat. Val is going to share all the useful links. So maybe you can also join Javier YouTube channel or Instagram channel, and you can start to see all this amazing magic. So make sure to jump on Behance and let us know also, where are you watching from? I'm right now based in Manchester, UK. Javier, where are you right now?
Austin, Texas, US.
Austin, Texas. Perfect. So let us know where you are from in the chat. And I think it's time to start with this wonderful, exciting project.
Awesome. So right here, we were just in Premiere Pro, but before we get into Premiere Pro, what I really try and drill across is having good organization. And this helps. Everything that you do in the beginning stacks on top of each other to make everything so much more efficient and eliminate the friction from point A to point B and just get into the creative process, because you don't want to have to be digging around looking for footage when you need to get done with an edit in a timely manner. So what I do is I created this project template, and by project template, I not only mean my Premiere Pro project file, I mean just a whole folder structure. So right here, hopefully it's big enough. I have a folder structure of docs, downloaded, exports, footage, graphics, music, Premiere Pro, stills from video, and thumbnails. This could look a little different depending on your productions. Like there might be something different here. Maybe if you do a lot of After Effects work, there's going to be a specific After Effects folder right here. But every single time I start a new project, I'll take my project template. I'll just do Command C, Command V, and I'll paste it. I believe my pasted material is on a different screen over here. So there we go. So it will look like this. And before I go a little bit further, people in the chat, what should we call this project? So you watched what it was. If you are just joining, it was a coffee B-roll sequence, but I have to name my project folder and I have to name my Premiere Pro project file. So before I do that, I know there's a little delay. If there's somebody in the chat that wants to give me a creative name for this, I'm all ears.
Amazing. And you're a pro. Yes, we know that there is a little bit of a delay, but please let us know some names. Also, if you do you have any ideas? Maybe we can give them like 2 options, or they can come up with everything. Or, I'm just going to read you through the chat. So if you want to keep going, we leave it unnamed for now, question marks. And then while the name comes through, I can just give you, maybe we can give him like a few minutes, and then I can give you a run through of different names.
Yeah. So I'm gonna call it name this.
name this folder. So we have the first coming through from Misty, the drip.
The drip. I like it.
So Val is asking, it is time for a poll? Well, maybe we can have some names coming through, and then if we end up having a couple of favorites, we can do a poll with that. So make sure to jump on behance.net/live right here, right now. So if you're watching on YouTube, come on Behance and use the chat to give us some insight on the actual video and how to name the folder, because we're starting from the very beginning with organization. I love that you're sharing that. Javier, I literally left a note before I was leaving to Washington last week. I left a note on our big, sharing table in the office about naming the folders and reorganizing the folders. So I'm so happy and thankful that you were actually sharing that tip, because it does make the difference. So make sure to share a name. Don't be shy. Share a name for the folder. I can see that we have Olivier in the chat. And by the way, we have our lovely Francisco Paco behind the scene that is also saying, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" I think it was for your actual video. We have a lot of positive feedback. Everyone loved it.
While we're still waiting for some names, I want to say the biggest reason why I have the same, I haven't changed this folder structure for my YouTube videos, and actually for my client videos, I might throw a different other couple of folders in there. But when you are backing up footage to a hard drive, or even now it's going to be going to the cloud, what is the utmost importance is making sure that everything is always in the same place. And if just the other day, I had a client contact me from a gig that I did 3 years ago. And immediately I knew what hard drive it was on. I went, clicked on it, and I could pull that raw footage for them within like 10 minutes because I've had this same structure. And anytime I need to update or resave any files, all I need to do is just drag or transfer over the files that are new within the same folder structure. So that's the key ingredient here to creating a template. And I think if there's anything that you get from this, start creating something that's just called project template, put it in some place where you can't exactly overwrite it, but every single time you start a new project, duplicate your project template and then rename it to whatever it's going to be. So do we have any more names?
So we have Coffee Fourth, and then VGA folder. I just think there is also Val, which highlighted that respect the drip, which I think
respect the drip. So I like the drip.
I like the drip as well. I think that is nice and concise. So Misty, we're going with your suggestion. Let's use the drip.
All right, so we have the drip here. Let me make sure that was in the right folder. So we have the drip, and then I'm going to go down here to Premiere Pro, and I'm going to rename my project template. Before I open it, I'm going to call it, and I'll call this one Respect. Respect.
Respect.
The drip. So at this point, I know this is like, the cool thing about doing live streams like this is some of the mundane things, but also some of the most important material is what I would like to show, and I know that people would be into. So I already have footage right here that, let's say, for the sake of this live stream, I just named it live stream footage. But let's say I had my SD card and I plugged it into my computer and like, oh, look at this. Here's all the stuff we just recorded. And what I would do is I would take this footage. So I'm going to highlight it. All right. Meow. And not this one, and pull it into my footage folder like such. And because I have no idea what Macintosh does, but like, I remember back in the day that would have taken probably this whole live stream, and it just happened before I could even say anything. Like, my mind is blown how fast
a little
computers
spin
are
wheel,
now.
like a rainbow spin wheel.
Yes.
Can go
I was like, oh, should I wait?
stopping.
Should I leave this for the live stream? But like, I knew that it would go that fast. So imagine this was our raw footage. Now I am ready to open up Premiere Pro, and I want to show you how I do it. So this is that Respect the Drip project folder. Now, when I click on this, it's going to say that it's an older version of Premiere. That's because I made this template in an older version of Premiere. I could save a new one, but I haven't needed to change anything. And I'll get into that a little bit more when I click on it. So let me click on it.
By the way, Javier, sorry to interrupt you, but I must mention that now we have some other names coming through, and it just for pure entertainment, we have them beans, journey of a coffee bean, let it percolate, mature, French press it.
Wow, these are all amazing YouTube like actual titles of videos. I'm just gonna write all these down.
I'll screenshot it for you.
So it says to convert the project, and just because I already put the drip, respect the drip, I'm going to keep that right now, and I'm going to keep my _1. I'll hit OK, and it will open up my Premiere Pro project. And one thing I want to showcase is that this doesn't have the new import menu. This is just straight up gets straight to the edit portion of Premiere Pro. And I think once you get into a more flushed out production, you have a Premiere Pro template, this is the way to go. So if you look immediately on clicking and opening up my Premiere Pro project file, let me make these bigger so all you people can see. I have out here in the open the resolution and V1. So it's 3840 by 2160. That is the 4K UHD standard resolution. But I have a sound effects folder, sequences, music, graphics, footage. I have a sequences folder. In my sequences folder, I already have pre-built sequences that have 1080 by 1080, which is square, 1920 by 1080, 1080 by 1350. And sometimes I'll do a 1080 by 19, or the vertical one too. But the reason why I have these in here is because, one, the resolutions are already set up. But the bigger thing about it is right here. Hopefully you all can see this on the live stream, but I already have things set up on my audio. Now, it doesn't necessarily always come out to be like this. So I already have a track labeled VO, Cam 1, Dialogue 2, Cam 3, sound effects, so on and so forth. And I may not use those. Most of the time, my VO track will be VO, but it's just nice to have those kind of designated right off the bat. And I'll show you here, right, meow, because of the audio track mixer. Currently, and I talked to the Premiere Pro engineers about this. So it'd be cool if something like this was put into Premiere Pro. But at this moment in time, there is no way to save a preset chain on your audio channels. And this is the #1 reason why I think it's imperative to have a pre-built Premiere Pro project file, because you can save your audio chain. So for all of my YouTube videos, I already have my presets for my audio chain of my VO. So right here, I have a parametric equalizer, I have a multi-band compressor, I have a denoiser, and I use the dynamics for the audio gate. And right off the bat, I don't have to, and these aren't with default settings. This is something that I dialed in over time. And anytime I record VO or put other VO in there, I don't have to redo these effects every single time. So that's another big plus to saving a Premiere Pro project template file and always using that same template file if you do a lot of the same work, hence making a lot of YouTube videos. So while I'm still kind of going over things, let me go to my footage folder, and I'm going to pull in my footage to the footage folder. So a lot of what we're about to see, I'll kind of show you some raw footage of what I was shooting and some of the setup so you can get an idea. But for the most part, it's going to be a front shot and a up top shot. And then I also try and get some singles or close-ups. This is one of those things that I learned from my time while I was working at the Chive and having to edit it so much material. When you're doing a process video like this, the process of making coffee through that little contraption is called Chemex. When you're doing something like this, regardless of what you're doing on camera, it's always nice to have, one, multiple views, but two, try and film it in a way that is anticipating how much real estate you're going to be taking up on the screen. Meaning, if you are going to be putting up graphics, so let's say for this video, if we were doing something that was a coffee B-roll sequence, but you wanted to be heavy on graphics where you're physically like typing out step 1, da 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 da, step 2, da 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 da. When you're filming it, try and film it in a way to give that negative space for whatever the text needs to be. Now for this, I knew what it was going to be, so I kind of just like left that material up on the bottom. So let's go over here and click inside our footage.
And I have a quick question before.
Sure, let's do it.
You said that you had that you've planned that we have a front shot and then something from the top. And do you plan ahead the number of shot? Like, do you already, have in mind how the camera is going to move? And is that something that, or the number of shot that you want to include so it doesn't become too confusing? Is that something that you will do afterwards when you see all the material that you have, or that you try to plan ahead?
I think it depends on what we're filming. So if I was filming a coffee B-roll sequence like this, what I would do is I would go through the process of making the coffee, and it depends on how many cameras I have. If I only have one, so for this, I only had one camera. In fact, this would be a perfect time to showcase some behind the scenes.
Oh, we have some behind the scene. I absolutely love it. And I think that like maybe I will give you like a little shout out when we are like at halftime, because I think that we got to play that. You know, the final again is just too exciting. For now, I think the majority of the people already seen it, but probably I'll give you like a little shout at the if we have people joining us throughout the stream, we must see it again. It's too cool.
So I think this is a good like overall shot. So right here, I'm getting my top down shot, and you can see that I tied the lights because that light was in the way. But I was filming on a slider. The straightforward shots for something like this, I know that I need to get at least a top down shot and a straightforward shot. Everything else is like gravy. Like if you can get, the more material you have to work with, the better. Just don't get caught up on if something doesn't work while you're filming. Just keep moving. Like if it was good enough, like don't. I would say my biggest suggestion is like if it was good enough, move on, because by the time you get to the edit, most of the time, I would say half of those shots don't even make it into the edit. So like I have there's a lot of BTS right here, but I have a lot of shots that we'll probably not even use in the final edit because it won't contribute to what we're trying to portray in the final video. So as you can see, I had a top-down shot, and to answer your question from before, what I would do is top-down shot, I would have them go through the whole process of making the coffee, and I would make sure that every single time they did a certain step that my focus was pulled correctly and that you could physically see on camera whatever we were trying to portray. And if I got those two things, then I would move on. So I would shoot it from above, then I'd shoot it from straight forward, and then a third time where maybe I take the camera off the tripod, off the slider, and just try and get some other creative shots, which we'll see here in the B-roll.
Super exciting. Thank you.
Yeah. So just to give you an idea, here is what are basically the raw files would be. Now, for the sake of this live stream, I don't want to go cutting through really long files. So I've actually done that already on the back end. I just wanted to showcase to you, like, we pulled in the files. These are the raw files right here. And as you can see, even from the thumbnails, what I try and do is like, oh, this is that establishing shot. Let me see if I can make these bigger for you all. Yeah, there we go. So like, this would be like, that's the establishing shot. This would be the coffee pouring shot. Again, doing another coffee pouring shot. And then I took the camera off the tripod since we were already doing this. I was like, let me get a couple more views on this just in case. And then I would move on to the next step and so on and so forth until we finished it all up. And the other thing to remember is like, all right, when we did this specific step, what side like was the coffee cup on? How does that look and all that kind of stuff? Which sometimes even when you're doing the edit, it's not even that big of a deal because things are so quick, nobody really notices. But like you can see, I try and get a variety of shots doing the same process every single time. So rather than doing our selects reel from this material, I went through and kind of made like a first pass selects, and I'm going to pull those files down onto the timeline. Let me switch my view right here to this one so we can pull these down.
And just to finish off on the previous question, does the overall time of a video will constrain the number of shots that you like to switch in between during the actual video, or not necessarily?
Yes. Yeah. I think the key thing is to know your audience, and you really won't know your audience unless you've made videos before in that specific subject. like for this video, I knew it wasn't going to do very well on my channel because it's not like a straight up Premiere Pro video, but I did this one mainly because I was like, I wanted to do something creative. And as you can see, like I think it's a fun video, but I know it's not like if somebody's online searching for something, how to do something in Premiere Pro, that specific video wouldn't be it, but it allows me the opportunity to do material like this, where I can teach the flow of how I created it. Kind of a long-winded answer to like segueing on what you were asking. I would say for something like this, if you were making an Instagram reel, a lot of your editing decisions would be dependent on like hitting that sweet spot of like 15 to 30 seconds. For this, I think the one that I made that we just saw was 33 seconds, just because I like the number 33. And when we first cut this, maybe I'll just start with like, all right, what are the necessary shots that it just showcases the action, and then we'll go on from there. So perfect. Without further ado, let's just share some of my my brain power as to what I would look for when cutting shots, if that's what everybody wants to do. Hopefully, because that's we got to make a cut.
Absolutely.
So in the beginning, I left these two clips in here to showcase that before I even hit record, I cleaned up a lot of what was already in the bathroom to make it as aesthetically pleasing as possible. I put some lights up here. Obviously, like a lot of this stuff wouldn't actually be like that. And the other thing is just to have a color reference. Now, there is a huge sunlight source, so things would change throughout the day, but at least this gives me a starting point as to like, if something went really wrong when I was recording and I accidentally like didn't get it correct, there's something there for me to have. And again, anytime I like switch a view, I would do that again. I wouldn't do it for every single shot. I would just kind of get a reference where if I switched to the up top shot, or if I moved into a mid or close-up shot, I would get a reference and then move on from there. And this really helps further on when you're color correcting, just in case something really went wrong. But for now, I'm just going to delete those two. And we'll move on to kind of selecting and thinking about how to start this off. Now, I know that I have this slider shot that is a establishing shot. When you're editing, a lot, or I would say a good rule of thumb is getting a good establishing shot, because if people don't understand, if you're just thrown into something, sometimes for comedic value, that's awesome. But other times, even if you watch like other Instagrammers or YouTubers, they'll just put like a little JPEG on screen of a building, and they'll like Photoshop in something that says like, we're at whatever HQ, like we're at coffee headquarters. And then they'll like put some sound design in the background, when really it's just like a stock footage of a building, but it just brings the viewer in. So for something like this, I'm establishing, like when you look at this shot, the coffee is right there in the center. You see the environment that they're in. And I personally believe that like, because this is a wide open shot, it brings more emphasis to like, oh, there was more effort put into something like this. Now, whether or not that actually comes across in the edit, or whether that matters, I'm not too sure, but I think those are the little things that help. So the first thing that I'm thinking about is I want action immediately. So what I did is I asked, this is my brother, by the way. I asked him to walk into the shot, and I knew when I was filming this that I was going to cut it right when he got to about right here. So I would continue the action. And what I'm looking for is we have the free space, but immediately there he's coming in. So what I'm going to do now is use ripple trimming, and I'm going to, I believe the keyboard shortcut is Q and W on the keyboard, but I've remapped these to my own fingers in how I utilize the keyboard. So for me, it's going to be W and E, but I'm ripple trimming. Let me just make this really big for those that aren't aware. What's about to happen is I'm going to cut from this point right here all the way to the beginning of the clip by just hitting, my key is going to be W. So I'll hit W and it just happened. I'll undo that. And another way to do that would have been to grab the razor tool, create your cut, select this one, delete it, hit Q, move everything over. I think that's a lot of steps to do something like that. So ripple trimming and ripple deleting, I think, are really big steps to speeding up your workflow process. So let me make this a little bit bigger so we can, again, see what we're doing.
And before we keep going, Misty, who is the viewer that gave the drip the name, is asking some questions. So we have two questions. One regarding shoots. So do you do stills as well when filming? And then the second question is, did you make your own reference card?
No, I did not make my own reference card, in fact. This one is the X-Rite color checker. I just looked up other YouTubers' videos, and Gerald Undone is an amazing YouTuber that knows like all the things about color correcting. A lot, when you look up basically color reference cards, this one comes up a lot. And I kid you not, this part alone has saved me so many times. When I was getting into log footage, and just learning about it, I had no idea where to begin. I will say the new auto color feature in Premiere Pro makes it so awesome or it makes it much easier to get a starting point when grading and color correcting log footage. But if you are color correcting log footage, I would say getting something like this is a must, just so you have a reference as to what white is. It's the X-Rite color checker. And I do believe this one's the photo one, but I do believe the video one is more geared towards video. And what was the other question? Oh,
if
stills.
You do shoot stills, yeah.
So let's ponder on back to our folder structure. Right here, if you look, stills from video, that's what I'll do as a YouTuber. This is one of my most important folders. While I'm editing my material, I will hit the export frame button on things that I think will really help as a thumbnail. Or if I need to make graphics and pull something over to Premiere or Photoshop, I'll always export frame, and all of my frames always go to this stills from video. And then once I make my thumbnails, they'll go into the thumbnails folder as a Photoshop file and a final JPEG. Now, if it's the idea of, do I take pictures while I'm recording, I will be the first to admit I am not a professional photographer. And if there's something, if I'm on a gig and people want photos, I will literally just give it to someone else. Like I'm of the mind that when I'm there, I'm either to shoot something or to edit something. I've met far too many photographers that are also amazing cinematographers because they just have the eye for photo, and they can translate that over to video. But I much rather focus on video and editing. So if it's something like taking photos, I'll do it as a hobby sometimes, but I'd much rather refer to someone else to take photos when I'm on gigs, if that makes sense. Hopefully that answers the question.
Absolutely. And I think that the fact that you were saying that while you're editing, in the back of your mind, you always have that, idea for the cover or the thumbnails. So throughout the video, you'll be able to capture and extract the stills from there. So you have your workaround, but I super respect the fact of hiring different professionals. I do that all the time. So it makes complete sense.
So getting back to these clips, in fact, just to illustrate what's about to happen, let me label this a different color so I can really showcase the power of ripple editing and ripple deleting. That's how it comes out of.
So that actually is your voice.
So let's say we want to cut this so that the next frame right here is this one. My brother walks in to frame. You've seen it a whole bunch of times since I've been scrolling through here. And I know that this is the frame. I know I want to cut from this area to the next clips. And I'll zoom out here just so you can see what's going to happen to the end. And for this, it would normally be the shortcut key W, but for me, it's going to be E. So I'll hit E, and notice that all of the clips moved over and shifted automatically. I undid it, and I'm just going to redo this again. So I have this clip highlighted, and I'm going to hit E, and it shifted everything over. Hopefully that illustrates the power of ripple trimming and ripple deleting. There's other ways to do that. Maybe I'll showcase that right here. So let's say we want him to, right when he's about to walk in. Another way to do that is I'm going to hit O on my keyboard to make an out point, and I'll go back to the very beginning. So I'll hit the up on my keyboard and hit I to create my in point. So here's my in, here's my out. And I can also ripple delete this, which I think is just shift delete. It's weird. I'm trying to get the default ones, but for me, it's a different button.
Do you customize a lot your shortcuts?
Yes. Actually, I could get into that. It's not doing the way that I want to. So I'm just going to, normally I'd be like halfway through the timeline by now, but it's those little things that I like to describe. So again, I'm just going to hit W. And while I'm here, I'll actually bring this up. Paco, if you could like put me on full screen. Okay, so here we have my keyboard, and hopefully it's clean enough. The way that I approach my hotkeys are not necessarily home row, because I don't know if I'm normal this way, but whenever I rest my hands, since these two fingers are longer than these two, whenever I rest my hands on a keyboard, I don't rest them on home row. Like these two fingers gravitate towards we, which is kind of ironic because it's like we, the two fingers, I don't know. So I have them up here. What I've done is the 4 keys that are right here are the actions that I do the most. So I don't even have to move my hand at all. What I try and do is keep everything from any type of action I do in Premiere Pro, I try and keep it to about right here to that side. All of this other stuff is not really, it might be something that I do, but not too much. Like JKL, I've actually moved over to this side. So if I did have another camera, I would showcase this, but with the mouse, I try and keep everything on my right hand on the mouse, and then also in the number pad. So anything that's in no man's land right here, one of the things that I think takes a lot of time away from editing is literally moving your hands across the keyboard every single time you want to do something. So what I do is I take my number pad and I have all of my motions to move the cursor on this side and all of my editing functions on this side, and primarily around the ASDF and the QWER. There's a whole bunch of other things in there, but the main takeaway here is if you find yourself doing a keyboard function a lot inside Premiere Pro, actually a good exercise is next time you're editing in Premiere Pro or any of the Adobe products, if you need to click and go up to a menu or right click and do something, force yourself to stop and figure out what the hotkey is. And the more you do that, the faster you'll get at editing, the more you'll remove that friction of just getting into the creative flow. Hopefully that makes sense. If you want to switch back. Oh, you're already back.
Yes. Paco is amazing. As I said, he's always there to support it. Lots of love and lots of heart in the chat for our amazing Paco. And you also, Javier, said something that I remember taking note of at the opening of Adobe Max. So there is Shantanu that he was just introducing Adobe Max, and on the first day said something that really, stayed in my mind, which I believe in, and is exactly what you said. These apps are going to be very successful in the moment in which, when you're creating, the apps gets out of the way. And I think that your suggestions, and I always, push everybody as well to use shortcuts. I think they call me MacGyver on chat for the shortcuts, really helps you to stay focused on creating, and you don't have to wander around the workspace. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm doing right now is I'm editing to the action, and so imagine I already went through and I did one pass to get rid of a whole bunch of fluff. And at this point, I'm just scrolling through, and when I'm scrolling, I'm looking for what is the idea that I'm trying to get across with this specific clip. And this is for a beauty reel B-roll sequence that we're putting together. So the visuals are a pretty big key, but it's all in a process and taking the viewer along the whole process. And what I'm trying to do is, if I'm watching this and if I hit play, I'm thinking in my mind, how long did it take for me to get the idea of this is coffee in a grinder? All right, great. Move on to the next shot. Like immediately, if I'm looking at it and I know that's the shot, I'm making a cut and deleting, moving on to the next shot. Once you get the idea across, or one action, maybe I'll find one here. Okay, so this is actually a perfect point. Right here, there's a couple things going on that kind of detract away from what I'm trying to say or show in this video, in this little action. It's that he has to steady the coffee grinds with his finger. So I don't need to show him bringing his hand up. Maybe I don't need to see him with the scoop out of focus. All I really need to do is get the idea of we are picking up coffee grinds, and it's only about that. So I'll delete this, and then I'll make an edit, which is add edit. I not using the razor tool. I believe it's Command K, but for me, it's F. I'll make a cut when I think this whole action is done. So I really like how they fall off right there, and I'll probably shorten that later, but for right now, I'll leave it like this. And I don't know if we need the whole action of him going over unless I speed ramp that. So now all I need is something like this. And what I might do is later on, I'm thinking these are two separate actions just filmed from the same angle. One is him picking it up. The other is him putting it away. So it might be a jump cut. So I might go doop, whoop, and you're done. But even that is like still might be too slow, because you get it. Like he's taking coffee grinds out. Let's move on to the next thing. This one, again, I want to start from action. You immediately, when I see the visual, it's like, I get it. It's a coffee kettle. He's hitting the button. Let's move on. Things like that.
Super cool. And I do a lot of tutorials online with screen recording. Yeah. And I think that's related a lot, because I know there are a lot of people as well that share their recording on Instagram. And I think that exactly what you're showing is, what I cut out with the selection tool. So with the black arrow is there moving around the screen, we don't need that pieces of footage. We can just have the, arrow on the selection or on the button and just cut, which is basically everything that you were doing with the hand. So it relates also to screen recording, besides, shot footage as well.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on here, this is kind of like cheating, because like I already have the clips already in a sequence. Before, we would have had to have taken a step, and all of these above shots were all at the end of the timeline. What I've done is I've already labeled them, so they kind of already are in a sequence that makes sense. But just know that like at some point in time, I would have had to have taken all of the top-down shots and move them into the sequence where they needed to be. But just for the sake of not boring you all while you're viewing this, I wanted to do that beforehand. This is another interesting one where I ask myself, how important is it to have him picking up the kettle? Like, we already established that the kettle was somewhere over here. He was pressing the button, right? You get it. Like, there's a thing there. We had it in the establishing shot in the very beginning. So I don't think it's very important to showcase him picking up the kettle. So maybe I'll start from right here, where he's pouring the water. And this is more like, I think I get it. Like, I get that he's pouring water by the time he just does one right about there. Like, I get it. It's slow motion water. But the other part of me is, what is the music going to do at this point? So I'm not sure where I would want to cut this yet. and how I want it to look. So for this pass, I might keep it just because I want to have that full option there. But once I get music in there, I know for a fact that this is probably going to be shorter, but maybe it will act for some sort of hit, or I'll do some sort of speed ramping, anything like that. Same thing with this one. Again, it kind of already starts right when the water's hitting, and we get the idea of, I don't need to sit here and watch the water go all the way down. So as it drips, boop, next one, dumped it, next one, dumped it, next one. And as you get into the flow, you can just like chuck through your footage for your first pass. So, and it looks like we only have a couple more clips here, so not too much more. Again, I think this is one where all we need to do is get a little bit more movement. Notice how he's moving the kettle along with the camera. So I love that type of movement. So I'll cut that. And I might end up doing this at normal motion. Ooh, I didn't know that was going to cut. I love how the water's hitting the kettle right there. So it has been superseded. So I'm gonna.
Everybody's loving your sound effects.
Oh, that's what I love to do.
It's really keeping us immersed in the content. So
I wish I had a better like sound effect for water pouring, because you'll hear here in a second. I had a tweet earlier about how all water pouring sound effects just sounds like people going to the bathroom, but like that's what it sounds like. So this one, again, I want to cut way more of this, but I just don't know what I need for the edit. There's a certain thing in the process where you put the water in once, you let it kind of ruminate, and then you put the water in again. And I don't know what part of the process that I want to show. So I'm going to keep those for later. Right here, we have some slow motion, and all I'm going to do is just look for the best droplet ones.
For the
that looks about good. We'll move on. Again, just showcasing a different view. And this gets more to what I was talking about earlier. You can see that I got all of these other shots in the same format. And now I've taken the camera off of the tripod, off of the C-stand, and now I'm getting in closer for these type of shots that I know that I want to get, especially this one, which is like the climax of the piece, the respect the drip, Karen. Yeah. And now I'm just looking for the best looking ones. I love how that's hitting. Hopefully that stuff comes across on the live stream, which I think it does. Something like that. And this is more material. Don't know if I'll use it. I just know I see him doing that. He's getting the coffee grounds and he's trying to like make it so they settle on the bottom. Again, you just need to showcase a little bit of the movement and move on. You don't need the whole clip. Maybe showcasing that he's getting rid of the coffee grounds here. And then we move on to basically the star shot of actually the payoff of getting our coffee. And this is another one where I don't think I would cut this at all for the time being, because I don't know how this will play out in the climax of the video. It may be where it's probably speed ramped, but I think in the final edit, it only made in like 15 frames, because you get the idea that they're pouring coffee. But to me, this is like one of the most beautiful shots. And like, I want to sit here and like watch it. But I mean, even me talking to you while we're doing it, it probably got to like, look, Javier, I get it. He's pouring coffee into a coffee cup. Like you can't see the level of the coffee. So what I did in the prior edit is cut it to the top shot and just getting the point at which he's finished with the coffee. This is another good trick and why you should film multiple angles when you're doing things like this, because you have to push along time as quick as possible if you're making something for social. Now, if this was like Chef's Table on Netflix, obviously those really good slow-mo shots are what make that show amazing. But I think what I ended up doing in the final edit was maybe just like showing this, you get the idea he's pouring coffee, and then immediately cutting to when he's finishing the coffee, like about right right there. And you get it. He finished the cup of coffee. So again, I'll delete that. And I'm just going to keep a lot of this because I want to, I don't know how I'm going to like mold it together in the final edit. Now I had a whole sequence of like putting on a coffee cup and pushing it forward. This action is pretty edited already. One key here is to cut. Look for the frame where something's entering. So right there, my plate is entering top frame. So I'm gonna make a little cut. And once that action is done, you can actually cut right here. But just to showcase one little trick is to, the moment the hand is away, you make another cut and you immediately start the next action of whatever needs to come on the screen. So right there. So moved it and boom, coffee's immediately coming into the frame and pushing. Now, if this was something where it's okay to showcase jump cuts, I would actually cut this even more. So let's say he put the plate down and I'm already cutting. So put the plate down, coffee cup, and I would actually probably start with the coffee cup about right here. So boop, boop. And we don't want to get rid of everything. And hero shot of getting the coffee cup. And this one, I want to keep the whole thing because that's where I kind of put in my VO at the end. And that was like 30 minutes and we already did like a selects pass on all of the footage. It's got to be a record of some sort.
Super cool. And since we are pretty much hitting half time of the show, I just want to run everybody that we're here with Javier Mercedes, learning all these wonderful shortcut and tips to create your content using Creative Pro. So stay tuned. There is another hour of fun, and maybe we should play the video just one more time for those guys. I love it. I'm sorry. I'm gonna ask. I told you that I was gonna ask him to do that again, if it's possible.
Yeah, sure.
If you have it already rendered.
Let me see if I have it really quick for you.
Yes, so we can have the chance to see the final project that we're working towards doing these 2 streams. Of course, Javier is going to be with us also tomorrow. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to tune in on behance.net/live and join the chat, ask question. I always say Adobe Live is a safe space to learn from the community and talented professional. By the way, Javier, we had a comment about your voice and, totally makes sense that you're on YouTube and creating content. So everybody is loving the stream. We have Clever saying, neat stream, thanks. Adnan was asking if that was ripple delete. Yes, Adnan, we were using ripple delete from the very first cut. And we're absolutely loving your voice, your stream, your tips. So is that the final?
Yeah, it's up. It's up.
Yeah, let's do this.
Ooh, what do we have here? Are these the essentials for a filmmaking tutorializing YouTuber? That's right, it's cinematic coffee B-roll. Slow motion perfection. Is this how my voice sounds in real life? You bet it is. The song's a vibe. The coffee's a vibe. That slow motion 120 FPS on the audio pass filter? Respect the trip, Karen! You know where that like button is. Battery sold separately must include YouTuber cliche surprise thumbnail face and what camera I used in parentheses in the title.
I would love to see somebody's reaction that didn't know what we were creating and they just came into us or me with the B-roll, and then that's the final thing that we're striving towards.
Well, we love it. Everybody is having a giggle in the chat, and oh yes, it's a vibe. We absolutely love it.
It's funny. I can't wait to do the VO. Maybe we can make some different VO for this one.
Looking forward to it.
So at this point, since you just heard the music and everything, I would go and find music. Sometimes I would look for music first. That could probably take the whole 2-hour live stream, finding the right music. Most of the time when it comes to things like this, if I find something that's remotely okay, I'm just I get it into the editor and just start creating something, because I'd much rather be editing video than searching for music. It used to be the other way around, being the audio engineer. I was, but at this point I'm no, I would just let me cut together the video to the music and see if it works. If it doesn't, whatever. So
in real life, let me ask you that. How long really, let's be honest here, how long does it take you to find the right music?
Oh, probably that long. It depends on what the video is. If it's something like my YouTube tutorials, then I have like a whole folder of videos that I try, or a whole folder of music that I like to use where it doesn't get in the way. Here's a big tip for when you're cutting stuff like this, and I may showcase some of these when I'm editing the music, is try and find something that doesn't have lyrics, because if you do have voiceover, a lot of those frequencies they'll be competing with each other. But on top of that, what ends up happening is, I just had this in a video that I was doing for a client. It was about cocktails. Like, it was like these awesome beauty shots of cocktails, and they wanted to use like this music by Lorde. And I think it was Greenlight. And in there, they're talking about like relationship stuff. And it was just like, it was like showcasing how to like make a cocktail. And then you're talking about like a breakup or something like that in the background. And like, it just doesn't make, like, the music in and of itself without the lyrics is awesome. With the lyrics, if it wasn't to that video, it was awesome. So,
but you don't want to push people going through a breakup to drink cocktails.
yeah. So what I think that was an internal one. So I just found an instrumental of it and then made that, and it was completely fine. But what I try and do, the main thing is when you're trying to cut stuff to things with lyrics, what ends up happening is the lyrics in the background just so happen to not make any sense with what you're trying to convey, but the energy of the music might be there. So what I try and do is find stock websites that have music.
That was my question. Where do we go to find music?
Yeah. Adobe stock, for those that don't know, like, even for visuals, if people want to practice their video editing, Adobe stock actually has a whole free category. A lot of my YouTube tutorials will use Adobe stock footage. Another one that I like to do is, and what we're listening to now, is artlist.io. And the other cool one is Epidemic Sound, which is already built into Premiere Pro now. So you can actually find the music. Let me see if I can just on the spot try and find this for you all. So workspaces, and I go to audio. Now underneath Essential Sound, browse. All of this is, I do believe there is other ones besides Epidemic Sound. But here is a whole bunch of stuff that's straight up available from Adobe stock and Epidemic Sound, which you could play it and all that stuff. But I don't want to get into all the licensing things, so I'm not going to play it right now.
Let's run away from that.
Yeah.
And by the way,
but just know that all of that is here. You could go by mood, genres, and all that stuff, and you can pull it directly onto your timeline. And there's a little shopping cart right there where you can license it all within Premiere Pro. I think it's really cool that's a feature. I'm going to go back to my other workspace here. We'll go back to
I just wanted to give a quick shout out for those of you who are not familiar with stock. As Javier has shown, you can browse within the app, or if you want to discover more footage, stills, and audio, and all the free content, the best place to go is stock.adobe.com, and you can explore the entire service and stock in there. Yeah.
Cool. So let me go back to my footage folder. And before I even start doing material, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my project folder, move it over. Since I just kind of brought everything into Premiere Pro, like I showcased, for those that didn't see, I started this project from scratch, and I just brought in all of the assets into one folder to begin with, just so I could get things running. But normally what I would have done is bring everything and organize it here inside the bins. So right now, this ES is Epidemic Sound. These are the different sound effects that I'll eventually be using. So I'm going to highlight all those, pull them into my sound effects folder. This one too. And my music is right here. I'll pull that into my music folder. And I do believe there's a couple other graphics things in here. Let me just pull those right here and here. And we're off to the races. Pull that back. So inside my music folder, our music search is going to take so long. In fact, it could take the rest of this live stream because we only have one piece of music to pull down to the timeline. It's the same song that you just heard. El Monte by Luke. This is from artlist.io, another great stock website. And let me make this a little bit bigger. And I just want to showcase to you one of my things, just being an audio editor first before I got into video. One cool tip here is most of the time, these waveforms don't look like this. They're at the bottom. This is underneath rectified audio waveforms. So if you are from an audio background, one of the things that like, it didn't irk me, even though it probably comes off that it irked me, was that like by default, your waveforms come like this. And I don't think I think the other way is better to showcase where hits are in the music. So if you go up to your little hamburger menu inside your sequence, you go to rectified audio waveforms, you can now get your waveforms in the middle. There's a little tip. The next thing I want to showcase is my naming structure. And this gets back to the whole project template thing. So at this point, we've made our first cut. This first cut, just if I go over here to my sequence settings, is 3840 by 2160. And when I dragged the footage down onto the timeline, that footage was already in 4K. That's what this ratio is. So if I go over here, what I could do at this point, what was another name? Can we go way back to the beginning of the?
Yes.
And let's use a different. What was it? French press.
Wait. I had a screenshot. I had a screenshot. So something about the French press it.
It is a Chemex. What was one of the other
Let
ones?
it percolate.
Let it percolate. I don't know how to spell percolate.
It's a PERCOLATE. So it's
PERCOLATE.
Correct.
All right. So our project is The Drip, and our sequences at this point in time are now going to be Let It Percolate. So I renamed my sequence. And by default, all of my sequences are the 38. It was that 4K resolution. And I renamed it. And since I already did this first pass, this is another trait I think that if you use this trait, I think it will help you indefinitely in the future. And that is to create versions of your sequences. So I have Let It Percolate V1. One of the best, I want to say, shortcuts is duplicate. That's all. For me, I made it the same as in Photoshop. So if you want to duplicate in Photoshop, it's Command J. So on my keyboard, I switched it so it's Command J. That's another thing that I like to do is default keyboard strokes in other programs. I try and translate that over to Premiere Pro if I use those other programs more or less. And a good case in point is something like scale to fit and a set to fit. In After Effects, it's a huge keychain of Shift Option Command A. And so I just did Shift Option Command A as my scale to fit in Premiere Pro, which makes it easier when I go in between programs that the keyboard shortcuts kind of match. So for this one, I'm just going to hit duplicate. And one of the things that people get tripped up on when doing this is it made a copy, right? And what you might do is come in here and start cutting and, I don't know, delete some things. And you're like, cool, this is now our edit. We got a hard cut on the music right there. And life is beautiful. And then you've made all of this material. And then all of a sudden you realize that you've been duplicating this sequence that's V1 and you haven't been like, oh no, this is like V10. And you thought that you were like doing it on V10. So my workflow is this. I hit duplicate on V1 and I don't try and click on this copy. I don't rename V1 copy 01. I don't do anything to it. I just let it keep its name. And then all I do is switch this to V2. It automatically switches it down here because in Premiere Pro, anytime you duplicate something, it won't switch to the duplicate sequence down here. That way you save your progress. And if I wanted to go back to V1, it's right here. It's just V1 copy 01. If let's say we did some more edits and I hit Command J, now I have V2 right there, copy 01. You could get rid of the copy 01, but I just think that takes time. So towards the end, it may be like, hopefully not up in the hundreds, but you have different iterations of stuff. And this is a smaller project, but trust me, if you have a producer come in and they're like, I don't really like the direction we went with X, Y, and Z, can we go back to what we had like, I don't know, Thursday? And another way of doing that would be go to your auto saves in Premiere Pro, but this way you have everything already inside Premiere Pro documented, and you can start clicking around the different versions. You're like, oh man, that was like version 10, whatever it is. Duplicating every single time you do a pass on your sequence really helps. So moving on, we now have our V2, and you know what? I'm just going to keep that V2 there. You know what? We'll just duplicate it again. Now we got a copy O2. We're moving up in the world.
What is your top number of duplicates that you ever had on a project?
Oh, like it gets up there. It gets way up there. But trust me, it's worth it, especially for those longer projects.
Yeah.
I guess that's the equivalent of the meme where it's like when you export something and it's final underscore underscore. This is really the final. I'm not doing any more finals underscore and then .mov.
And by the way, so Javier, before we go, I need to ask you this. I mean, maybe not today, maybe tomorrow, but I will love, as a personal request, and I'm sure hopefully the chat let us know, because I've seen some question regarding audio. I mean, we have someone that's been working with audio as well. Will we please have any like a little bit of audition tour at some point? Or
no, so actually what I do is I cut everything and do all the effects in Premiere Pro.
Okay.
So and that probably will be what we get into tomorrow, especially just like trying to make really creative VO with some echoes and all that stuff, because I think that's one of the cool things about Premiere Pro is that you get the best of both worlds. Like whether you're doing something in After Effects or Audition, I think Premiere Pro is robust enough if you know how to set things up that you can keep everything in there.
So beautiful. We'll look forward to it. So make sure everybody, I know that there were people asking in the chat. So tomorrow we're going to be focusing on that. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So at this point, we've moved the audio onto the track. And just because I know that my audio tracks are pre-set up on this video track, I have a whole bunch of effects going on. So this is like over compressed and everything, and I don't want to play my music on that track. I'm just going to move it down. Another great keyboard stroke is Option up and Option down. If you're on Windows, it's Alt up and Alt down. This just nudges files up and down, and it doesn't move them in place. Seems like a very simple thing, but if you're doing more selects and other things and you want to highlight something, I moved the Option up to R because I use that so much. I can't tell you how many times like you're looking at a timeline and you're like, man, where's that one clip that I tried to single out? Well, if you go along and you just like, imagine it's this one little clip and you did your whole selects reel, and then you look at like 5 hours of footage and you're like, oh, yep, it's right there because it's sitting on the next layer. But let's get to the next step in the editing process of how I would approach this. So I try and look at this from a audio editing perspective. And I know regardless of how I cut this video, the beats per minute are going to be the same for this song. It's a very normal song. There isn't any changes in tempo. So if I'm listening to the song and watching back and cutting to it, I know that at least by a couple frames, this is the feel for how long a shot should last. Just on a first pass. So what I might do right now is I'm going to lock off my music and I'm going to hit play, and I'm just going to see like, all right, what is the feeling that I get when I'm listening to this music, and are shots too long? Are they too short? Do I need to drag these out to certain beats and certain things like that? So I'm going to make the music even bigger so we can really see what's going on, and let's peruse on. So right there, I heard the clap. And I think I'm going to be like really on the nose with how the edit hits on certain beats. And I think right when we hear the clap is where it needs to switch. One thing I am noticing though, is that my music starts 6 frames in. So it may actually already be the right amount of time, but I'm just going to start it like that. And again, I just ripple deleted. Really great feature. I'm going to undo that just so people know. Really great feature of ripple deleting is that it shifts everything over. And we're still at the point where I want everything to shift over. So for me, I hit T. I believe for others, it would be shift delete. So there, I got rid of it. And I'm just going to listen back and again, look for that clap. You see that? It almost like lined right up. So again, the clap. So right there, I think is right where I want it to happen. And I'm going to lock this off now. And now I'm not necessarily going to be looking to edit to the music exactly how I want. I just have a reference for what shots I need and what shots kind of play to this music that we're watching and cutting to. And immediately, it's even better when other people are watching you edit. There's like this sixth sense of this shot's lasting way too long. Like how long do we get the idea? We're pouring coffee. Cool, coffee beans. Move on, Javier. Let's do that. So what I would do is I would try and find the best, like what really sticks out to me. It looks like about right here, just because there's already some coffee beans in there. Let me make the visuals a little bit bigger.
Also, Javier, if you at some point can just do like a little mini tutorial on ripple delete, we have some question in chat coming up about the difference between
let's do it.
Delete and ripple delete.
All right, let's just do it right now.
Thank you.
Again, let's showcase this by color coding. So you can see my orange clip from the last time. So let me color code this to something completely different. Mango, that was the other one. Let's do Caribbean. Sure. All right. Ripple delete, ripple trimming. And I will bring up my keyboard shortcuts right here, just so you can know the technical term for them. So I'm going to look up the word ripple inside my keyboard shortcuts. If you don't even know where that's at, go up to Premiere Pro keyboard shortcuts. For me, it's Option Command K. I believe that would be Alt Control K for Windows users. And I already have my own keyboard shortcuts, but in the search menu, let's go ahead and peruse on over to ripple. And here we have all of the options. So there's ripple trim, next edit to playhead, ripple trim, previous edit to playhead. Now you have to understand that the term edit refers to a slice in the clip. So anytime you see edit, that's what you think of it as a cut. Then there's ripple delete. For me, that's T. So I'm going to showcase to you the difference of those. Right here, I'm just going to get rid of this clip that he was taking this off because I don't even think I'm going to use it. What you just saw was me using delete and moving the clip over, and then I ripple deleted. I'll do that again. It was so sly. Did you even know? Did you even know? So I highlight this clip, and the old way, or just, I would say if you're first learning Premiere Pro, this would be how I would even do it. You highlight this little small clip right here, you hit the delete key, and then the issue is you have this space in your timeline. So another cool key is just to zoom in and out to your timeline. That I believe that's, I don't think it's tilde. It's one of, I don't know it off the top of my head because it's I've switched it on my keyboard. But so we have that space in there. What I would normally do if I was in this situation is I would go to the track select forward tool, click that, and click all of the material that's over to the right of that clip and butt it up against the edit point. Now let me undo all of this. And actually, just so we have a better reference, I'm just gonna get rid of that clip. Now we have a much bigger clip that we're looking at. I'm gonna make this one mango so you can really see what's about to happen. Here we have, let's say I wanted to make an edit from this point right here to this edit point. And I just want to take that action of shifting all the clips at the same time. On your keyboard, if everything's default, this would be Q. You need to make sure that either the clip is highlighted or you don't have any clips highlighted and your toggle track targeting is turned on. So I'm going to, what would be considered Q, for me it's W. I just hit it, and hopefully you saw these clips move over. Let me do a bigger slice so people can really see. You're going to see all of these other green clips move over. So I'm going to hit W on my keyboard. Again, it'd be Q for you. And everything moves over. Same thing the other way around. Now, let's say I want to cut from this point to the next edit point, which would be this spot right here. This would be W, but for me, it's going to be a different key. So I'm going to hit that, and we've ripple deleted, everything shifted over. Once you get that workflow, things speed up so much faster. Another key one here is ripple deleting. So let's say instead of ripple trimming to previous edit or next edit, I wanted to get rid of this clip, the purple clip, altogether. So this would be ripple delete. For me, it's just the key T, but for others, I believe on default, it's Shift and that small delete button. So this little one on the function keypad, if you don't have that, you would have to, like, if you're on a laptop, you would have to hit function, delete, shift, a lot of different things. I would suggest changing it in your keyboard shortcuts. So I'm going to hit ripple delete here, and it ripple deleted. Again, I'll bring up the keyboard shortcuts. That's Option Command K. In your keyboard shortcut menu, if you needed to change something, just look up ripple like that, and you would click right next to it and then just tap whatever key that you want to change it to and then hit OK. I've already have mine saved how I need to. The other cool thing about Premiere Pro is you can actually save more than one keyboard function to, you could save however, there's probably a limit, but you could save a bunch of different keyboard combinations to one type of action. So besides E, let's say I wanted to make the number 1 my shortcut, I could do that. And both of those keys would do the same action. So yeah, that's how you'd switch it. Hopefully that's like a short aside on ripple deleting. It really helps power through your edit quicker.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We have the chat saying that we're learning a lot. We have Paloma Dora saying learning a lot. Bali saying I feel like I can dive into my own videos with more confidence now. Paloma, I'm going to be ahead when I start my Premiere Pro course very soon. Amazing.
Yeah.
And Reverb is saying Ripple was Sanford's favorite drink.
All right, let me, so I'm going to play this back and let's look at what I'm looking at are the audio waveforms. I'm listening and I'm just getting a sense of where do I want this action to basically hit. So I know that my first 2 cuts were about a couple measures of music, and you don't want to keep continuing that. But for something like this, I might have it be as long as 2 iterations of the melody. So let's say I wanted to start about right here where I'm pouring, and then I'll cut right there. So I know that, let me make this as big as possible for the people watching. So I know that this beat right here is where one of those claps are. And I know that the beginning of the beat is, or the beginning of this like musical melody for one of the phrases is right here. So I'll just make that cut. And if I need to add more, I'll do it later. So I'm gonna hit ripple delete, boop, get rid of that, highlight my next clip, ripple delete, and get rid of that. We're moving on. Immediately, I'm telling myself when I'm seeing this, all right, this might be an editing thing. Which shot looks better? This one is kind of moving over the place, but if I need to use it, I can because it's a different view. So if I wanted to introduce the viewer into the top-down shot, this might be the one. But I know that I only need maybe 4 measures of music. So out, moving on. This one's the same exact view again, and I can't really tell which one I would use. So I'm just going to kind of cut them as need be. And at this point, I can see that these are what kind of the music is cut to. So this would be about 4 measures of music right there. So even without listening to the music, I can see that maybe about that much is all I need. So I'm going to ripple delete that, ripple delete this. and move on. This one is him just pressing the button. And I'm saying to myself, do I really need that? Is that important to this cut? No, it's gone. This is the one that we looked at for in the beginning. And I think it is important in the process to showcase, oh, he's grinding coffee beans. Like he was pouring into something, that something just so happens to be grinding all of those beans up. Looks good enough for me, and I'll finesse that in the edit later. See all that work that we did on this one before? Already cut to the music, right? And I didn't even know. I love when it just like lines up. Boom. Again, I don't know if I need both of these shots. To me, it's the idea of there's coffee grounds and he got them. Do we need to show him both picking them up and putting them into a cup? No, probably not. We just need a isolation shot of getting coffee grounds. In my opinion, I'll keep both of them for right. Nope, I'm just going to delete the one with the cup. All right. Moving on to, sometimes you just like vibe to the music and
we both started dancing.
Yeah, and you just like, I can't stop like editing. Again, this is more like, all right, this is just a choice of what were the shots before it. So if I had a medium shot of the button, I would not want another medium shot of the Chemex. I would want a wider shot. You don't want to keep showcasing close up, close up, close up. You want to vary your shots up just to keep the interest going. So another idea is, did I have a top-down shot before this? We wouldn't want to show this as a top-down shot. So I'm going to hit play. And I'm literally only thinking about what is the most amount of frames that I need to show here to showcase the view, to show you, the viewer, that, hey, he's putting a paper thing in a glass thing. Do we need 3 separate views of it? No, you probably just need 2, maybe even 1. So he puts in that way, and I might cut it right here so it continues the motion. And maybe he's already placed it. And even this, while I'm watching it, there's a hesitation. Hopefully this comes across in the live stream in like a smooth playback manner, but there's like a hesitation of when he's pressing down the paper. And even that much action, I'm like, I don't know if I even need that. So I just need him putting the paper in and releasing. And he's already pouring water. Now I'm hearing that music pick up, and I'm immediately thinking like, oh, right when that music hits, maybe that's right when it's cool to see like the water hitting. But I don't want to make that decision right now. I think I'm just going to scroll through this to see what looks best. And I think it's right when he's wetting the paper right there. So we'll start right here. And I'm already out. Part of me thinks that we've already shown the idea of he put water in the paper. I have this top-down shot of him looking at the paper. I don't need to show more views of him watering paper. You get it. Water, paper, these 2 clips, donezo.
There is water in the paper.
All right, so there's our cup. Now it's gonna get its little star moment. Again, we only need this action of him dumping it. I'm just trying to get rid of as much fat as possible on all of these clips and really down to some selects that kind of goes to the beat of the music. So he's pouring it in. But even immediately, now that I'm seeing this, you can see that I go from a medium or a wider shot to wider shot. And to me, the edit doesn't make sense. So I'm hoping that I have a top-down shot that can vary it up of him dumping the coffee beans in. So we have this shot. To me, it just doesn't make sense to, and these are the things that maybe if you're viewing it, it just makes like something doesn't look right. But I'm trying to explain why it doesn't look right. It's because, for one, I'm on the slider and I'm going to the right. In the previous shot, in the next shot, I'm on the slider going to the left, and it's the same format. So to have both of these shots together, it doesn't flow well. So now I'll add this shot of him pouring beans, and I might jump cut this. So you get the idea that he's pouring the coffee grounds, right? So I might cut it so he's taking the thing away. Jump cut right about there. I'm not too keen on it, but I'll leave it like that. And at this point, I would much rather prefer to have this. So here's another trick. I'm going to grab both of these clips and let me do some more color coding so people can really see what's about to happen. I'm going to color these ones violets. I'm going to color these ones mango. And I'm going to highlight my two clips right here. I'm going to click and I'm going to hold Command and Option at the same time and drag. Now, I don't know if it'll pop up on the live stream very well, but in between the two clips, you can see these little two arrows. I can't get my mouse up there to really show you where I'm talking about, but in between the two clips, it's showcasing to you what's about to happen. I'm going to basically shuffle these clips over, and it's going to move the ones that were there into its place. So rather than me explaining it, let me just show you. Boop. So it took the clips and moved it over. Let me just show it one more time. So I highlight them, hold Option and Command. If you're on Windows, that would be Alt and Control, click and drag and move it over. And it just moved this clip. It basically flip-flopped them. If you were to just click and drag these clips without holding any modifiers, it goes into its place and you don't get, like, it basically just overwrites it. Another option here is to highlight both of these and just hold Command on Mac or Control on Windows, click and drag, and watch what happens now. It shuffled it over. I think a better use of this would be if I grabbed all of these, held Command, and then move them. Oh no, it's doing the same thing. So yeah, if you want to flip-flop clips on the same timeline, on the same track, really neat feature is to just hold Option and Command or Alt and Control, click and move over, and now you flip-flop the two shots. But in this circumstance, we put this in, poured the water, drop in our coffee beans. In fact, I'm just going to get rid of that one where he's pulling away the cup. And I'm just going to delete this one because we already got the action of him pouring the coffee beans. And we can now switch over to any kind of view. This one's just kind of showcasing that he's putting water on the coffee beans. I would need to show something like this before really showing the viewer this top shot because I don't, well, I guess we could maybe jump cut it. So let's see if this actually works. Going back on exactly what I was about to say or what I was talking about. So I'm going to hold Command Option, flip flop these, and let's see if it works. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Boom. So there's exceptions to the rule. Except I would start off with it already in the coffee beans. And I do like this shot of the water hitting the glass right here just to really accentuate what's going on. So I'll move that over. Boom. And we're already moving on to bigger and better things. At this point, I'm already thinking to myself, all right, we got it. Look, there's water, there's coffee beans. People have probably seen coffee being made before. So do we need all of this B-roll? Not too much. Let's move on to a different action. So now we're going to look at 3 different types of cuts with the dripping. Let's just let that hit the music. And I can already just like feel. I'm not too keen on this one, but we'll leave it in for right now. Here's another. I've noticed that I didn't pull focus well with this shot. And here's another great tip for everyone. It's the ripple trim tool and ripple edit tool. So by default, let me bring up my Premiere Pro. preferences, general. I believe this is on timeline or trim. Okay. So allow underneath Premiere Pro preferences, trim, allow selection tool to choose roll and ripple trims without modifier key. This is something that I do because I just picked up this when I was working at my previous job at the Chive. This is completely personal preference, hence why it's in preferences. I'll hit OK just so I can really showcase to you exactly what's going to be going on. Let's do some more color coding. Coffee drips, color coding in French pressives. That's what we're doing. We're going purple now, chat. All right. So with this one, again, I said that maybe I have a better view of this. I don't know. It might be on the beginning of this clip. So if you look at my cursor, let me try and make this a little bit bigger. I know it won't be too big, but if you look at my cursor, it's changing what it's doing. And by default, if I didn't have that preferences selected, what your cursor would look like is this. It would turn into this like bracket with an arrow. And what this type of thing does with the selection tool is it will move your clip as need be. But if I want to, I have more here. I want to like see what's on this side of the clip, like Premiere Pro, show me. Well, this is where rolling edit and ripple edit comes in. So instead of this red arrow, what happens when it turns yellow? Things are getting exciting here, folks.
And by the way, we have a comment saying that I think it's Annika or I imagine walking to Javier's house and saying boop instead of hi.
Yeah, even when nobody's here, I'm literally like making sound effects with my voice.
So cool.
Anytime I make an edit. So here we have, I believe this is the trim edit tool. It has one of the, actually I can tell you exactly, the ripple edit tool. Let me go back to my selection. So the ripple edit tool, what it does is it just takes your clip, and you can see here that I'm pulling it, something that wasn't available to me before. And after I pull it, look at what happens to all of the clips behind it. It shifted everything over. So what this does essentially is instead of having to move all your clips, extend this back out, now you can just do that in one fluid motion with the ripple trim tool, I think is what it's called. The other, ripple edit tool. There we go. The other one is the rolling edit tool. So let's say I wanted to change this edit point right here with the double or the quadruple arrows, the quadruple arrows. We can move the edit point between these two clips. Again, if you didn't have this, you would need to hold Command or Control on Windows, and you would see the right cursor. So by default, it's just this. But if you want some extra spice in your cursor in Premiere Pro, you could live on the wild side and allow your, let me say it correctly. Allow selection tool to choose roll and ripple trims without modifier key. Love how they label
like
things inside Premiere Pro. Anyhow, that's just to showcase to you that an easy way to see footage before this edit point was to make your cursor yellow, maybe move it over a little, and then see what I had available. So I'm going to do that. Looks like these shots, or most of this was somewhat in focus that I wanted it to. So I'll maybe pull a little bit of that and move on to my next shot. So right here, I think this is more about the visuals. So I think that like, I'm just going to keep this as is. I'm not as concerned with how this cuts to the music because I really want this to hit that climax of the video along with the rest of the material. This one, I don't think it's necessary. It's already gone. It's just him shaking the grounds and the Chemex. Moving on. This one might be good just to showcase that, hey, we're pouring more water in there, but that's that you have to make a decision on who this video would be for. And to me, it's more about the idea behind showing a process to creating coffee in a parody way. And normally if you're making something like this, you have to weigh it. You have to like put more water, let the water drip, then pour more water. And to me, I'm making the creative decision to only showcase that whole process once. But this whole process probably takes about like 5 minutes to do, because you would have to do multiple pour overs of your coffee or of the water. I don't think that's necessary to showcase. Like, I think the viewer gets it. You made coffee grounds, you poured them in the thing with the filter, you got some shots of some drip, you got some water in the cup, and then you just move on to putting not water in the cup, but sweet black gold into that coffee cup. Look at that amazingness. Oh man, it's a vibe.
Cool.
So at this point, I'm not too sure as to what I want to use for this. And I'm trying to speak in perspective of when I was first editing this. Now, I already know how much of this shot that I used. So I'm going to use like hindsight and know that I'm not going to keep everything of this shot. What I will show you what I tried to do in the beginning was a little bit of speed ramping. So for those of you that don't know, speed ramping is just like speeding up footage, slowing it down. It's ramping or adjusting the speed of the footage as it plays back. The easy way to do that is, as let's say I wanted to get through the action of him pouring it and then maybe get back to slow-mo right about here. So I'll create a cut right here. That's add edit, Command K, and I'll right click. I have to like remind myself not just to go all haywire on my shortcuts. Speed duration. And let's say we want to do 500, and you want to make sure that ripple edit shifting trailing clips. Obviously this live stream should just be called ripple edit for some reason. So I'll select this, and if I hit OK, notice that it shifted everything over. I'm going to undo that, and I'll bring back up my menu. I won't select this, and notice what happens. Oh, I didn't change my speed. So if I put in 500, hit OK. Oh, there's a big space there. I was going to move all this stuff over anyway. So instead of having to do that labor, Premiere Pro knows what's up. It's like, look, we got you, editor. We got you. Ripple edit shifting trailing clips. Boop. Oh, I keep changing 500. Now I'm so smooth. Boom. That's what I was looking for. This is what the playback would look like. And it goes into slow motion. Obviously, I wouldn't have it be that long, but you get the idea. If I wanted to really adjust this or have a fine-tuned adjustment of my speed ramping, I would actually, let me make this much bigger so we can really see what's going on. The effects button right here, I'm going to right-click this, go to time remapping speed. I feel like I did that really fast. So right-click on the effects button, time remapping speed. This line now represents the speed of the clip. So it just so happens that this clip is slow motion already. And just so every single time I hit the play button, I'm gonna mute the music. And I'm going to create a spot as to which I want the slow-mo to start. So I'll hold Command on Mac or Control on Windows, click at this spot, and you can see that it made a couple brackets. These brackets represent kind of where your inflection points are in the speed or your nodes or your keyframes. And if I click and drag on the line, notice that it's moving it along. And if I make it higher, it's very at the bottom of the screen. I can see a percentage down here. I'll try and do it again. I can see that I'm going up to 500%, or I could go even faster. This is really just to showcase what's about to happen. So it starts out at, what are we at? 746, living on the wild side of speed ramping. And then it will gradually go back down to 100%. But in this case, the clip is already in slow motion. So this is going to be 120 frames per second. That's my coffee sound effects. Again, one other thing that you could do is really accentuate this. So you could pull it out, and instead of having a linear movement, you could click in between and maybe have an exponential movement. So I go,
I think Premiere Pro needs to hire you to get the sound effects editing. They need to have a package of editing sound effects by Javier.
So that's speed ramping. So that's, I mean, to me, the way that how fast it is at the very beginning is like way too artificial, but I'm trying to go to the extremes here to really showcase exactly what I'm trying to showcase using the word and definition. Don't even care. Hence, but to me, like I said, trying to get through the whole action may be a little too much. So I really love that whole shot, but to me, I can't leave the whole thing in there. I just have to get across the idea and move on. And for a shot like this, it kind of stinks because I would love to hold on it longer, but I know that all I need to do is get the idea of I'm pouring coffee into a cup. It looks cool, but it only needs to be on there for a couple frames. So in order to do this, I'm just going to delete our speed ramping clip that we've been working with and bring this back over. And I'll get like a nice little shot, maybe about right here. And that's it. You get it. He's pouring in the cup. That's it. And you have to get rid of the rest of that shot, which I'm like so sad about, but it needs to happen. Again, I talked about this at the beginning of the live stream. If you weren't here, what I'm trying to do is just get through the action of pouring the cup. And this doesn't really showcase that he's finishing pouring the cup. So I switch views to about right here, and I'll start it right when he's getting towards the end. So maybe about right here. And he's done. So, and done. And I don't even think we need the cup. So I'm going to delete that, go straight to my next shot. And this kind of last sequence goes like this. Pop, boom. And this is the point where we're doing voiceover and we want this shot to last as much as possible.
So it works as a background.
Immediately, oh man. So the final edit was 33 seconds and we're already at 34. So we started out with, I mean, if you count the actual footage, it's probably an hour's worth of footage. And during the process of this live stream, we've now cut it down to 34 seconds of a sensible edit, right? Now what I might do is just watch back and see what we're what are we working with, you know? All right, so even in watching that, I hope you get a sense of exactly where the edit starts to feel really long, especially because we're on a live stream right now. So I'm even thinking about audience retention of like, we're watching this back, but immediately to me, and feel free, chat,
the coffee
as well, to talk about the different spots like that immediately stand out to you that like, oh yeah, now that we've seen it, these 3 shots are way too long of me pouring the coffee beans. But when I was cutting this, I already explained that like, I'm probably only going to use one of these shots. Don't know which one yet. I'll keep them there for right now. But watching it back, I'm like immediately, oh, we need to like make this shorter. In fact, I want to hit the spacebar button, but I'd much rather give you a full view of everything that we've made up until this point. Is there anybody in the chat that's like said anything about like other parts that really seemed long?
No, everybody's just loving the way they're editing. So I think everybody is very engaged and the retention is on your explanations rather than the actual video. Absolutely. So I will pass you on if there is any comment. And just to give you a shout out, I think that in a couple minutes, so like 3-4 minutes, we're going to start to wrap up, and it'll be great if you give us like a little, recap of what we've done today. If you tell us a little bit more about what we're going to be doing tomorrow, and that will be heading towards the end of the stream. So you have, I would say, 4 minutes for today before we start to recap.
All right. So let me just play back, and I might not talk as much, but I'm thinking about, all right, when I'm looking at this, let's get this down to a sizable chunk. Boom, boom, boom. Like it already needs to be done. So we have this, since we have 2 of these, man, I like all those shots though, but that's all we need. You know what? We'll keep 2 of the shots for right now. Okay, you're in there. You're pouring the coffee beans. That one's too long. Another thing that's really standing out to me is it's so repetitive. Like you can see that I'm always cutting to the beat. So that's something that I would address after this, but I just want to keep cutting down the clips. That hits. One thing before we, actually, if we're going to get into audio tomorrow, I was going to start cutting the music to actually like accentuate and pull along the viewer. But I think a lot of what tomorrow will be is really digesting and putting in a lot of effort into the audio aspect of the
edit. I think it'll be great if we leave that for tomorrow and we just kind of dive in deep in the audio.
I was gonna say, if you want me to do a really quick recap of what we went over today.
Before we jump into that, so we had Bruce that he said, that he noticed that the pouring the coffee was a little bit long. I had a comment because when I saw that, I thought that myself, but then I thought maybe it's because that's where you're gonna, tell a story or say more during the voiceover. Does that influences how much, like, do you have a script prepped, or you use the footage first and then you put the voiceover and whatever script or comment based on the actual footage? So how does it work?
To be honest, it's whatever vibe I'm getting while I'm looking at the footage. So when I'm playing, the other part of it too is tomorrow when I try, one of the big things that's standing out to me and what makes it even more repetitive is the fact that we're hearing the same phrasing in the music while we're seeing the same amount of beats cut in the clips. So instead of, you can see right here in these waveforms, this is almost the same exact thing as this. So to me, what I'm going to do tomorrow is immediately chop right here and get it to the next phrasing where things are, the melody is going to be changed in a little bit. A lot of the stock music, what they'll do is create something and then they'll change it up after they've done 2 iterations. After they've repeated it twice, they'll move on to the next idea. And when you're making a cut like this, the easiest way to shorten that is just take one idea, chop it, get rid of the repeating of it, and then move on to the next section. And you'll find that you'll have like almost a perfect halved or condensed version of what the song is, and it gets to the climax much faster, like what we're seeing here. And when he is pouring the coffee and things like that, that's where after I cut the music to what I think the flow needs to be, I'll start moving around my edits to then accentuate both the visuals and the audio.
Makes total sense. So before we get into the recap, real quick, Rob is saying we're mesmerized, also busy with maracas and chair dancing. I think you said something about shaking up Premiere Pro. So everybody was like talking about literally shaking the laptop and like dancing and using Premiere Pro as maracas to follow along with this super cool music. So we have a lot of fun going while watching and learning with you. And I think it's time to do a quick recap. I think we have about 3 minutes, 2 minutes actually.
So I just did a duplicate of my sequence, but I'll do another one right here. I'm kind of like working with that idea of organization. One thing that I did during this live stream was showcase that every single time you do your sequences and we did a pass, before you start making more edits, make a duplicate so you have something to come back to if you find you're like, ah, man, I really liked how that was before. So right here, I'll go up to let it percolate, duplicate that, and then I'll label this V4. So these are all out in the open. And one thing I might do is move these into my sequences bin, but because we're still here on the live stream and this is a fresh thing, I'm probably going to leave these out in the open. Going back to the beginning, let's bring up our Finder. The big thing was creating a project template. So I'll click on this and you create a project template folder. Once you create this project template folder, always duplicate that and start with your project template. And inside your project template folder are folders like docs, downloaded files, exports, footage, graphics, music, Premiere Pro, things like that. And then we clicked on our project template. I already relabeled it to the drip. And inside here, which we haven't really gotten into, but I'll also dive into this tomorrow. But one of the reasons was, if we look at my, what are we doing on time, by the way? Are we still good?
I think like 30 seconds really. And
okay, so your audio tracks and everything are still good. It's basically, you're starting from the same set of options every single time. We brought our footage onto the timeline, started cutting everything together, and then put the music underneath it, cut it to the music, and then we'll pick up from there tomorrow.
Absolutely.
If it wasn't said, I'm Javier Mercedes on YouTube, Javier Mercedes X on Instagram and Twitter, if you want to follow me there. And hopefully I see some of you tomorrow.
Fantastic. Yeah. So we're going to be tomorrow back at 12 Pacific time for part 2 with video editing with a wonderful Javier. Stay tuned. There is a Creative Encore in XD, more challenges. And of course, tomorrow, Adobe Live will be back at 8:30 a.m. Pacific with Adobe Express. Don't forget to watch the replay online on Behance. And we look forward to continue this amazing project with you, Javier, tomorrow. I will see you, everybody, on behance.net/live. But bye for now.
Bye.